Welcome to Geek Banter, Episode 3. My name is Davey.
I'm Marc.
On this special edition episode, we're talking about the great time we had at Jet City Comic Show this weekend in Tacoma. We met some very talented and friendly local artists, and we're going to give quick rundowns of the books we bought from them, as well as where you can find their stuff too. We also want to give some shoutouts to the cosplayers. If you dig the show, subscribe on YouTube and VidMe, and keep up with what's geek this week. Like our page on Facebook at facebook.com/geekbanter, or follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/geek_banter, and at Tumblr at geekbanter.tumblr.com. So this is going to be kind of a short episode talking about Jet City. Had a fantastic time. We only went Saturday, but met a lot of great people.
We were there for most of it, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was nice. It was a small, more intimate Comic-Con. But first off, we wanted to talk about this great book that Marc actually picked up called Dark Matters.
Oh, yes, Dark Matters. All right. So one of my favorite parts of Jet City was talking to indie artists, indie developers, and just, talking to them and telling them about, this podcast and trying to get the word out. I happened to go up to a table while I was waiting for David. He was doing, I forget what he was doing. He was off doing something. But it was empty, and I walked over, and there was this cool card that was just all black with all these white birds coming off. It said Dark Matters, and I was like, okay, looks kind of supernatural. I'm into that. I haven't been in comics in a while, so I was like, all right. We started talking, and they let me flip through their book. They just put out, James Allen and Pete Fitz just put out their first graphic novel called Dark Matters. And it's very supernatural, very, historical, fiction, fantasy, based around World War II. Mm-hmm. He was telling me they have 800 pages written, 200 and the first 200 in this graphic novel. I read the first 4 pages, and I was hooked. Oh,
wow.
Yeah, the first 4 pages, I was like, dude, this is amazing. What are you selling this for? And then he was like, oh, it's $20, but if you go to our website, take the survey, it's $15. And so I started telling him about our podcast. It's about time you showed up. And he actually handed me the book to read and to keep, and man, I'm so happy you did that. Oh my god, it's so good, David. I have to have you borrow it.
I want to. It sounds amazing.
I'm doing a bad job of explaining it. I don't want to spoil anything, but I was expecting it to be really good in general, but I was also expecting there to be a lot of common themes you see in comics these days.
Yeah.
And I thought at first it was going to go that way. Very common, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very choreographed. So it's this, then this, then this. You can just know what's going to happen afterwards. But no.
Predictable?
Not at all. Threw me for a loop every freaking 10 pages. I was like, what? So it was really
good.
It was really cool. I'm just really jazzed about it. I haven't read a comic that made me this jazzed in a while, so I'm just a little bit everywhere about it. But we have a website for it, www.darkmatterscomics.com. It has info, it has characters, you can check out the bios of the characters, and really, look into the creators. And I hope if you do, you dig it, you buy it, it looks really good, and it looks like they've worked really hard on it. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's... Real quick, I did want to mention that I haven't read that book, but I have seen a couple of the pages, and I looked over while you were reading it while you were sitting down. It looks very professional. A lot of indie comics, they kind of have sort of a, it is what it is. They do the best they can, but you can tell it's very, independent and stuff. But that, it looked like it was done by fucking DC or Marvel.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, well...
Ravens...
Oh, sorry.
Ravens are a prevailing theme. I just wanted to mention that.
Well, Ravens, I'm guessing taking people to the afterlife or something like that?
No, just ravens are around a lot.
Oh, gotcha, okay. I did want to mention real quick about Dark Matters. If you're trying to look them up on Twitter, they're at Dark Matters 00. I think on Facebook they have the same name. I'm not sure, but just an important distinction because there's a couple Dark Matters that might come up. So make sure you do Dark Matters 00.
So good.
Yeah. All right. So, so let me talk about a book that I picked up called Toy Wars. This was actually right when we got to the convention.
Immediately.
Yeah, and it was funny. I only brought about $20 to spend on stuff, and I came in with the mission of, 1, spreading the word about the podcast, and 2, buying as much indie stuff as I could with the limited funds that I had. I made a point to not buy anything mainstream at all, because that's not the point of this Comic-Con, in my opinion. But
correct, yeah.
So right when we walked in, there was this guy. He looked this really jovial, older-looking guy, and he was also wearing a kilt. I was wearing my kilt. I wear a kilt pretty much every day, and I said, "Hey, nice kilt," and he kind of jokingly went, discounts for anyone in kilts. And I was like, all right, I got to talk to you now. So I talked to this guy, and he asked me what I was into. He had multiple novels on his table. I told him, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. He said, well, I don't really do horror. I'm not into it myself, but I do sci-fi. And so I picked up this book called Toy Wars, and he described it as hard sci-fi with a candy shell. And as so far, I've started reading it, not very far, but so far, yeah, that's pretty good apt description. So it's about an AI trapped in a teddy bear, and in the far future, humanity figures out faster than light travel, and they've pretty much wiped out all the resources on Earth. And long story short, they decide to send these factories to distant planets to mine the resources, wipe out the local resistance, and they literally are programmed with the directives to conquer, plunder, destroy, and steal, basically. And this is hugely successful. They bring back a ton of resources and metals that's never been seen before, and technologies and stuff. But this hacker ends up fucking with them, and because of this, 6 of these factories get sent to the same planet, which hadn't happened before. They all get sent to their own planet, and they start competing with each other for the resources. Not only that, the schematics, because of this hacker, the schematics for their robots that these factories build to do this end up getting replaced with toy blueprints from a toy factory in Earth. Thus starts the Toy Wars. They start pumping out dolls that explode and stuffed elephants with flamethrowers, or like just this crazy shit. And so one factory is having a hard time competing, so it pushes itself, and the factories are semi-sentient. They can make their own choices and stuff. So this factory decides to push to make full AI, and it succeeds. And it creates this teddy bear that has sentience, and that's the main character. That's pretty much as far as I've gotten so far, but I mean, so far it's fantastic. It's got a great sense of humor, and like I said, it is hard sci-fi. It deals with AI and questions of humanity and stuff like that. So I definitely recommend checking that out. It's you can find their stuff at tanstoffelpress.com. The author is there will be a link. It's kind of hard to spell, but there's the author is Thomas Gandolfi. That was the first book. I think it's a trilogy. I saw at least 2 books. This one is Toy Wars.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3.
Yeah, and then they also have other writers with Tanstoffer Press there, but he was the only one there. But yeah, that's definitely a really good book so far. God, we're terrible at segues. So, moving on.
Things to work on.
Yeah, things to work on. So this next one here, comicsandcognac.com. These guys were awesome. They
were really funny.
Yeah, and they were super friendly. It's two guys. I think they're based out of Port Orchard. I think they said. And we walked past and we saw their name and we're like, Comics and Cognac. All right, what are you guys about? So they run a couple of web comics on their website, comicsandcognac.com. The one that they were selling there was called Goody Good, which I picked up the number one. Is just a small, $3 little book, and it's very dark. It's definitely gallows humor. Goody Good is about a guy who tries to do the right thing, but he keeps fucking it up, and people end up dying.
Usually dying.
Yeah, usually dying. Like, the first comic is he helps an old lady across the street, and he gets distracted by something, and she gets hit by a freaking car. So, I mean, it's funny. You definitely got to be into that kind of humor, which I, for sure, am. I love Cyanide and Happiness. Gets kind of dark sometimes, especially depressing comic week. So I'm kind of into that kind of thing. They also have on their website a one-shot comic called Wing, which is really beautiful, and it's just about birds. And then another ongoing webcomic called The Weekly Drive, which I haven't really looked into yet. But check out their stuff at comicsandcognac.com. They're also on Twitter and Facebook, just Comics and Cognac. Look them up. Great guys. You should definitely support them. Next, we talked to a guy named Quentin Shaw from QEW Publishing, which QEW... Yeah, it's... Oh, Quentin Shaw?
Yeah.
Yeah, it does sound like a mild-mannered Quentin Shaw.
Shaw.
Yeah. But QEW Publishing, which stands for Quality Entertainment Works, he's based here in Tacoma, in Tacoma. He's local anyway. But he publishes stuff from people all over the place, including he published Nighthawk, which was
by Marie Frances.
Yeah, which you've read. I've never read.
I own.
Oh yeah,
and it's amazing.
But he not only that, he has multiple novels and comics under his publishing name. The comic I picked up was called Blood and Silver, which was written by him. It's very gory, yeah. Written by him, Quentin Shaw, and it's about werewolves. It's about a guy who discovers he's just inherited this huge amount of money in this mansion, and that he's part of an ancient werewolf bloodline. And there's the other subplot is there's a werewolf who's killing other werewolves, kind of rising in power, and is probably going to end up threatening this guy as he discovers more and more about himself and where he comes from and who he is and all of that jazz. But it's really good, and definitely I'd recommend checking these guys out as well. You can find them at www.qewpublishing.com. You can buy anything they sell on their website there. They're also on Facebook and Twitter, QEW Publishing. I believe they're on Tumblr as well, but from what I saw, it looks like they don't update very often there. And then lastly here, before we get into talk about some of the cosplayers, it's Comics for Kids. These guys, they weren't selling anything. They don't write anything or really produce anything. What they do, and this is just phenomenal, they literally just give out comics to kids for free. They had a table out in the...
It was crazy. We went out to the lobby and just to see what was out in the lobby, and there was this giant table just covered in comics, old school comics, and we're just like, what is this? It's comics for kids. It's for kids, get it for free. If you see stuff that you want for your personal collection, we just ask you, give us $1 or $2 here in donations, and we're like, what? And I'm looking down and I see a Fantastic Four comic that I need for my Silver Surfer collection. And I was like, Ragman? I got a couple things from my son as well, and I'm excited. He really dug that when I got home. I was like, I got comics for you. And he was like, oh, yes.
Oh, man, yeah. I picked up a couple for my son Danny, and he's only 2. He pretty much just like to look at pictures and point and stuff. But I picked up a SpongeBob comic for him, and he's really into SpongeBob, and he hasn't really put that thing down.
Nice.
And yeah, these guys are, like I plugged them on Twitter and Facebook, and I said they're doing the Lord's work here. It's really awesome what they're doing. They literally just want to give out comics because it's good for kids. It gets them reading, and sparks their imagination and inspires the next generation of artists. So check them out at comicsforkidsinc.org. I believe they're located out of the Tacoma Public Library, or it seemed like that way. But they go to local events and stuff like that.
Yeah,
really cool guys.
About they're willing to go to classrooms and just give give all the students in the classrooms comics and whatnot, and just make a day of it.
Yeah,
I was like, "What? That's awesome!"
Yeah, and that's great. Anytime it's a good charity.
Yeah.
I'm sure they take donations as well. But
before we hit cosplayers, there's one person I also wanted to mention real quick.
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
I didn't get to buy. I wanted to buy her art. It was really beautiful, well done art. It was like the Studio Ghibli. She had a bunch of the Studio Ghibli art and Sailor Moon and stuff. Her name is Wendy Chen. She's an illustrator and viz dev artist. You can find her at www.wendychen.com. I just wanted to plug her real quick because her art was amazing and gorgeous and beautiful. And yeah, I really wish I had all the money in the world because there was 5 or 6 things there that I wanted really badly.
Yeah, for sure. That's the thing. Next year is we both decided we're going to try to actually bring some money.
Yeah.
Okay. So, cosplayers.
Cosplayers. Who is your favorite cosplayer?
My favorite, in terms of how impressive the costume was, there was a guy, we saw him briefly. I think he might have gotten overheated or something because he left pretty fast, but he was dressed up in power armor from Fallout 4.
Oh yeah, the Brotherhood of Steel guy.
Yeah, and it looked really good, but we weren't able to get a picture of him. And at one point, we saw a couple people walk around with his arms and legs and stuff. One of my favorites, though, I'd have to say, was Quail Man. It was great. Awesome. It was perfect. He got every piece of the costume absolutely correct. He even had the belt on his head that was kind of tipping forward. That was great. I love people that cosplay stuff that nobody else does. So that was fantastic. What about you? Who's your favorite?
Mine's a tie.
Yeah.
Between Marceline the Vampire Queen, who we saw right when we got there.
Oh, yeah.
Who was awesome. And the Kate Pansino cosplay, who did the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Facebook is Kate Pansino cosplay. She did an awesome Ghost Rider, and we saw her when we first got there, and I was like, "Oh, that's Ghost Rider. That's a female Ghost Rider. That's so badass. She did such a good job." And then, but we had just gotten there, and we weren't taking pictures really. We were just kind of checking everything out and making ourselves familiar with what was what. And then we sat down to munch and just talk game plan, and I saw her, and I was like, "Hey, we gotta get a picture with her." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go get a picture with her right now." And I get up, and she goes around a corner, and I go around that corner, and she was gone. And I was like, "God!" Finally, we were able to track her down and get a picture with her.
It took a few hours to get a picture with her. It was like she became your white whale. I will get a picture with her.
Hell yeah, dude. And then Psylocke was that way too. Psylocke was a really good Psylocke, really hard to track down.
Yeah, exactly. God, we don't really have time to go over a lot of cosplayers here, but I did want to say it was nice and refreshing that everybody it seemed like everybody tried to stay true to the characters as much as they could. Which people can interpret characters however they want, but it was nice to see that people weren't, attention whoring about it. There wasn't like any overly sexualized characters,
Right.
like, no Jessica Nigiri type people.
Right.
I did see a couple, ladies that were dressed up as characters that it fit the character, and they, were able to show off and stuff, but no, like, super sexy Batman or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Which was nice. But we did put up a ton of pictures of different cosplayers. I got a couple pictures with people I slap fought with a Deadpool. Which, real quick, I wanted to point this out.
You tried lifting Thor's hammer.
Yeah, I tried to lift Thor's hammer. The Deadpool, though, as soon as he kind of looked at Mark, he fucking looked at Mark and asked him if he knew his friend Colossus, because he was about the same size, which was great. I love the Deadpool cosplayers. That's one thing that I don't mind if I see a bunch of, because it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was fantastic, Jet City. We're definitely going to be there next year. Next year we're going to bring bring business cards and cash.
Oh yeah, that was the one thing everyone was asking about was business cards. I'm like, that's our next step.
Yeah, we're like, you can look us up here, but we don't have business cards. So, next year we'll be a little bit more prepared. So that's it, I guess. Mark, do you want to end it with our quote here?
Oh, yeah. You think the music industry is oversaturated? Have you seen the comic industry? At least you can find a quote about indie music. Me.
This has been the Geek Banter, a production of the Zarp Network. Until next time, remember to support local artists, because they can't do it without you.